CEO of the CSC SPV, Dr. Chagi, Dr. Ashwini Kumar Sharma, Dr. Nilik, Dr. Sanyam Bhardwaj, Dr. Naeem Oyes, and Father Joseph, all the eminent personalities present here, ladies and gentlemen. Way back 95, 98, when I was dealing with introduction of computers in the government departments, I was totally even unaware, and I could not even imagine that computers could do something good in the rural areas. In fact, I was of the firm view also, of the opposite, that computers would help people who are highly literate and are in the urban areas. While designing the E-Seva project, I had substantially and only focused on the urban areas of Andhra Pradesh. Of course, which obviously was a good success because of all the favorable factors. You had the connectivity, you had the need, you had the demand, you had the infrastructure. And I failed to understand at the time that the IT revolution can really also happen on a large scale in the rural area. And that's where India is. And today, looking at the way these CSCs have shaped and come up all over the country, almost about 1 lakh in number. And also I have been observing experiments in different parts of the country, making forays into the rural areas. I think it's amazing. We have traveled a long way, I would say. Today the thinking is different. And the orientation of the policy planners should also be accordingly different. If we were to give a slogan, probably we'll have to say rural first today. Thinking of any scheme, the government of India, state governments, look at the rural areas first. It is where the bottom of the pyramid lies. I think the CSC movement that way is really extremely useful in playing a role in that space. And I am glad that the National E-Governance Plan has laid enough emphasis right from the beginning on this. It was conceptualized in 2006. And we have today the largest network of rural telecenters anywhere in the world. The average hit rate is again another concern. While of course making the CSC as viable unit is another objective, but the prime objective is not to create employment opportunity to one person in a village or in a center. But the idea really is to make the society vibrant through the CSC being the medium of a knowledge transfer. And hundreds of things that can be done through connectivity and through computers lying in the village. That is the prime objective. Making the CSCs as viable units is the secondary objective. But of course, one cannot probably survive without the other. Ability is also important at the end of the day, otherwise the shop will close and the story ends there. In terms of the number of transactions, I'm told that it is currently on the average about 188 transactions in a month. We have put this as a asterisk also incidentally, that each CSC should do a certain minimum turnover from the existential point of view and not an objective per se. And this needs to go on increasing, and for the next year I am proposing that we should reach a figure of 500 per month, so that they become a permanent fixture in the rural economy, in the village landscape. And there should be demand for more such centers. So an eye on the transaction rate, TPM, transactions per month, what we are calling this, one of the performance parameters for the industry and its team. How, in different ways, is he going to increase this? Because thereby, each transaction means you are touching a citizen digitally that day. That is what matters at the end of the day. Apart from these transactions, which are, largely dealing with government or with semi-government institutions, there is a lot outside that encompasses what we call a knowledge society. Is knowledge society, does it mean paying up electricity bills or taking a piece of land record from the government archives? Knowledge is something much more vast compared to all this B2C business. Knowledge is something which I believe is something which can make an individual wiser by a gram at least, or richer by a rupee at least. If you are able to achieve these two objectives, I think then we can talk of is it a monolithic or a stereotype of a content that is useful to everybody? Obviously no. In the context of the slogan, one person illiterate in every household, which is part of our national ICT policy 2012, when we try to transliterate this or translate this into a meaningful sentence, then what does it mean? It means 25 crore persons you are going to touch by 2020, which is a huge challenge. And what are you going to do? Are you going to give 30 hours of time spent with the computer? Is it what you call illiteracy? Or is it something else? Then it transpired in the subsequent brainstorming sessions that it is not a uniform kind of a approach that you should adopt. In terms of illiteracy, it could be at 5 different levels. Level 1 is the mere ability to deal with these gadgets, play with these gadgets and see what happens. Like being able to open the computer and then open the internet and probably look at email if one is that much educated and connected. The basic level. The next level is to be able to deal with the transactions, say whether it is G2C or B2C transactions. I am able to pay a bill or I am able to get my insurance renewed or whatever is the transaction. It's a transactional in nature, which is the next higher level. And level 3 is what is the ability to acquire knowledge of a special type. Say a farmer, he wants to know what kind of prospects exist for a particular crop in the ensuing cropping season, or what kind of a pesticide whether he has to apply in a particular disease is spreading, and so on. Or certain bits of knowledge about the healthcare, and there is a particular problem, what should he actually do? So, a knowledge which is making him better off in his own profession or occupation, or better off personally. Acquisition of knowledge is of that type is level 3. Level 4 could be a little more involved, using an application on a day-to-day basis for enhancing livelihood. For instance, I am an artisan, I am a weaver, and I would like to do a better design of my sari or the fabric that I am going to make. I should be able to use a particular tool or a software that will enable me to do it faster, better, and more elegant, and also provide me access to the markets for selling that product. That is level 4 itself. Earning not only a rupee more, but a lot of time saved. I am more productive and I am more profitable end of the day. And the highest level, of course, of aspiration here in this context is a course which will enable me, a formal course which will enable me to be more employable. I am a student who has done 10th or 12th or whatever. I do a course, level A, B, C, whatever. And then it gives me better, it improves my CV and it gives me a greater chance of getting a job early. So these 1 to 5 levels are distinct. The kind of people we are addressing are different in these areas, and we need to chisel out. And of course, CSCs may have relevance in some of these levels, not all the levels, but definitely some of the levels, or a mixture of these levels they can handle. So we need to create packages for different CSC SPVs, educational packages, which look at these different needs. Look at it from the user's perspective. Look at it from the citizen's perspective. What is it that he or she wants, so that he has a rupee more or a gram of his knowledge more at the end of the day. That is the way I think we should look at designing our packages and offer them in a big way. And of course, there should be reasonably good entry criteria for the CSC SPVs to take up these programs. Because if you spoil the game in these stages, then it will be, very difficult to recover that name again. So we should be choosy and selective and rigid in the way we enroll the VLEs into the educational programs for that. And streamline. It's not as if we are starting with a clean slate. Already a lot of VLEs are into the education sector. Last month I visited a few CSCs in Lucknow, which are being handled by Sahaj, for instance. There we saw there was one room in which they were dealing with the transactions. There was another adjacent room where there was an instructor and there were 5 to 6 people who were trying to learn on some course. So it was being organized already. But I found that they were not really the best guided in terms of what courses to offer and how to take those courses forward successfully. There are a lot of training of trainers involved, lot of structured material is to be made available to these VLEs. Then the value for the effort that they are making in the far-flung areas will be much more than it was left, on their own. So a lot of guidance, a lot of coordination, a lot of facilitation and monitoring will be required. So I would suggest that the CSC SPV creates an environment where this is possible. You attempt it in a structured manner so that the value for the effort is much more, and they can play a much more meaningful role in the e-education space. But of course, the challenge will become, or I would say the opportunity will increase 100-fold very soon when we have the NOFN, National Optical Fiber Network, spreading out 250,000 villages. Even the 1 lakh CSCs that we have today will be much less compared to what the vision is for extending connectivity. So we have to catch up on that front as well. We are getting more openings and more wider openings in the sense that 100 Mbps, 1 Gbps is what we are talking about. What are we going to do with all this bandwidth? With 64 kbps or 128 itself, we are probably not able to utilize that fully. What are we going to do with 1 Gbps at the village level? There is a big challenge, big opportunity as well, I would say. So unless we create highly interactive and highly, content-rich courses to be able to utilize that, we are again going to miss the bus. The infrastructure will lie there, utilized to the extent of 1 or 2% in terms of the bandwidth that is being provided there. And in that context, I would also commend that the idea of a digital knowledge center, which the CSC SPV has come up. In each of these villages, we will, or at least in all the bigger villages to start with, we will start the digital knowledge centers with at least 5 computers and certain environment, certain ambience which is funded by the government. And that will be the focal point for this transfer of knowledge of these 5 levels that I mentioned earlier. And that is of course also the foundation for the knowledge society that we have been talking about all along. And in the 58 villages for which already fiber had reached on 15th of October and lying to be utilized, inviting us, challenging us, provoking us, so to say. And here I am lying. in an ideal state. Use me. That is what it is. It's a beckoning that we have to see. We have to act fast. Otherwise, these 58 villages will soon become 100,000 villages where the gigabits are lying. 250,000 villages where the gigabits are lying and utilized. And that we need to do what all it takes to see that such a, poverty of utilization, poverty of, our inability to exploit the opportunity lies there. I think we should avoid it at any cost, and definitely education is in the forefront of all this. And I am sure that the kind of expertise we have in this room will be properly churned during the course of this day's discussions, and will come up with excellent suggestions at the end of the day. And the challenge is not, the kind of conclusion should not be 1 gram of knowledge. I don't know how to measure knowledge, so I am using gram. My knowledge in that section is poor, so unfortunately. But not 1 gram, but probably 1 kg of knowledge people should carry back from these CSCs every day. Thank you and wish you all the best.